This is Hemant.
And Jessica.
And you're listening to the Friendly Atheist Podcast. Please go to patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast if you like what you're going to listen to. Hello.
Hi, Hemant.
So we were just talking. It's been a crappy day for both of us in terms of politics because our preferred candidate is now out of the race, which has been the case for, I guess, most people at one point or another.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is most people's preferred candidate is going to lose.
Yeah.
This was just a really particularly heart-wrenching kind of the whole primary.
Were you surprised that Elizabeth Warren dropped out? Because after, even before Super Tuesday, it's like, oh, she's not doing great, like in Iowa. And then Super Tuesday just kind of confirmed, like, oh, right. No one else thinks the way, like, my people do, which is a thing I felt about pretty much everything always forever.
Before Super Tuesday, I was not surprised because, Pete won Iowa and then subsequently dropped out. So I feel like those first, 3 states aren't the most telling. Honestly, this just, it feels a little bit like 2016 all over again in this particular moment. It just happened this morning. I've been kind of dealing with it, but I'm genuinely and deeply really sad about the result of this because she, to me, was such a great and strong candidate who brought so much to the table and was just constantly ignored and belittled by Bernie Bros, if Twitter is any measure of reality, which is arguable.
Which thankfully it's not.
Right. And
based on how much love Biden is getting across the country and not at all on Twitter.
Right.
At least our Twitter.
Right. So, I'm just...
Here's where I get sad. A little optimistic about it. So in 2016, when the candidate... when Hillary Clinton lost, it's like, well, shit. Like, things are going to be bad for a lot of people for a really long time, which is totally panned out.
Yep.
With Warren out, here's me still trying to be optimistic about it, which is Bernie's still in it.
When are you the optimistic one?
I don't know. Bernie's still in it. He'll get my primary vote now, just like in 2016.
Yeah.
Whatever. Fine. He'll get my primary vote because I don't think he's going to win. Biden's going to win, but hopefully those votes push him more to the left or to adopt this understanding that, oh, right, I got to appease even more progressive people, which good, you should. Bernie's still in it. That's a good thing. But also Biden has a chance to pick a running mate who is everything Warren is. If not her, Stacey Abrams, someone who is at least relatively more progressive than he is. So, hey, by all means, steal everything Warren has put out there because she has all those plans. Steal a bunch of it. I'm sure she would be thrilled if people took her plans and ran with it, even if she's not in the race. That's the type of person she strikes me as.
I absolutely agree with you that she'd be thrilled. And I do think a lot of her policies are going to be taken in and put into action. But it just fucking sucks that once again, a woman has done all of this work
yes.
and is not going to get any credit for the great work she's done.
Right.
Also, it's really, really sad that we started with the historically most diverse field that we've ever seen in a primary, and we're stuck with 2 70-something white dudes. And
which in and of itself, whatever, I voted for them for a long time. I'll do it again. So the fact that there was no Obama-type figure who transcends whatever animosity that's not the right word, whatever hesitation, reluctance people might have to vote for a person of color, a woman, whatever. You didn't have that candidate this time around. But I also kind of...
I did, though.
Yeah.
I had that candidate. Elizabeth Warren was that to me.
She was for me, too.
She was so fucking inspiring.
No, love her. Yes, I'm with you on that. It wasn't for everybody, though. Obama seemed to be that for more Democrats. Remember that the type of people who listen to a podcast like this are not the sort of people who are voting, even as Democrats, by and large.
Yeah.
So, you get stuck with mostly centrist or whatever you want to label Joe Biden as if it's not a centrist. You're going to deal with that. But the fact that all those people ran and it wasn't a weird thing, the fact that, you had a gay candidate and that wasn't the thing that was interesting about him at all.
Right.
Or the thing people were complaining about from the left anyway. That's good. This is an important part of the process of making it so that someone can get elected.
Yeah.
It was the case for Hillary Clinton, too. It's like, it wouldn't be weird. It wasn't weird to have Elizabeth Warren running as a woman because, yeah, we've been there, done that. Not a big deal. People had other issues with her, to me, it seemed. Maybe there was the sexism still underlying it. But it wasn't out there like, no, I don't like her because she's a woman and she'll woman all over the Oval Office.
Yeah, but
like,
that's not how sexism works, is it? And you know that. You know better than to say people didn't say that, like, oh, they weren't sexist because they didn't say
they said
because
more,
she's a woman.
No, I feel like they were more open about their sexism when Hillary was running than they were with Warren this time around.
Yeah. No? I mean, I saw it all over the place. Just in terms of
that's fair.
Just in terms of her being blamed for Bernie not doing well, as if it's a different candidate's fault that their candidate isn't performing well.
As if she dropped out, all of her votes would have gone to Bernie,
which I don't think we're going to see.
I think the poll that came out today says it's about half and half.
Yeah.
Bernie and Biden is where Elizabeth Warren's votes will go.
Yeah, and people calling her to drop out after like fucking Iowa, as it like it just it was really sad to see that no matter like she had these really and she was truly progressive in what she was putting forward, and she wasn't enough for whatever reason. She fucking dressed down Mike Bloomberg in a way that I have never seen, and he's still recovering from. Well, he won't recover from it because he dropped out like. Basically on the spot.
She got Chris Matthews off the air.
Like, this is a woman who gets shit done, and for her not to, she would have just been such a good president. Like, she had a warmth and she made me think that she really she genuinely cared about these issues, and she had a pragmatic, smart way to put them in place.
Right.
She has a track record of getting shit done even before she was in office. And still, like, what else could she have possibly done?
Right. People are always going to pick on something or another. I mean, again, this is
she
going
wasn't
off to
perfect, and nobody is saying that she's perfect.
Right. They'll always find something to complain about.
Yeah.
But that's true for every candidate ever. And I would just add that I said this online. I will say this until November. Like, yes, our preferred candidates out of the race. There are a lot of other reasons you should still vote for the eventual Democrat.
Yes, I mean,
even if it's definitely not your ideal candidate.
Right. I'm still blue no matter who, and nothing will change that.
Think about the people who don't get the luxury of picking a candidate, but their options are Trump or someone who can at least put sensible people in charge of agencies that matter to them, or who isn't going, like, whatever you hate about Democrats, progressives are changing some of that. And again, there are people who have no option. I just don't understand the people who are like, well, Bernie's out of the race, or if they say that, or Elizabeth Warren is out of the race, therefore I'm not going to vote because both parties are the same, or whatever. Biden's too much to the right. I think
if you
like,
still
how
say
little
that
do you
after
give
this,
a shit about, I don't know, LGBTQ people, judges, church-state separation, anything like that?
Rights.
How much do you not give a shit about any of those people, about any of those issues that you're like, nope, don't care. You didn't do everything I wanted you to do. Therefore, burn the planet to the ground.
Right.
Like, God, that's so selfish. And I expect that from like some segment of people. Like, it doesn't surprise me that some Democrats or otherwise, whatever you want to label them as, would do it. I know Republicans don't give a shit about it because they voted for this guy.
Right.
But again, do it for other people. And if you want to make an impact, like my vote doesn't make a difference in the Biden, whatever.
It does down ticket.
It does down ticket. So vote for the most progressive local people you can imagine. I would ask the people who listen to this, how many of you know who's running in your statewide elections or for your city council or for your school board? Odds are most of you have no clue, and I don't know. I'm not judging you. I'm in the same boat. But the point is, there are people running for those races who could be you, but even if it's not you, there are people running on progressive positions in those races. They need those votes if you want to change stuff, and those elections in a lot of ways matter more for what affects you day to day.
Yeah, and, you know, it's still get involved. I've said a couple times I'm the precinct committee person for my local precinct. So for the last few weeks, I've been knocking on doors and dropping off, you know, just not any particular candidate. In fact, I don't think I have any, like, literature about any specific presidential candidate, but it's just all about down race stuff. I'm giving them a sample ballot. I'm giving them a rundown of who's running and what their positions are. It's knocking on doors and I'm walking 5 miles on concrete. So it's, kind of a long day, but at least I feel like I'm helping. At least I'm doing something to make sure my neighbors are getting out to vote. And
right. For candidates they probably would not have heard of otherwise.
Right.
Because local candidates don't have that kind of money to run commercials necessarily. Yeah,
and to be clear, when the thing that I'm doing, knocking on doors just for the Democrats, you get a walk list, so you're going to meet registered Democrats. So I'm not just going door to door to door to door. Like, I have a walk list that tells me who the Democrats are in my neighborhood so I can make sure that they're voting. So,
and that's the goal. Get out to vote.
Yeah,
not necessarily vote for this candidate or anything like that.
Exactly.
Because turnout matters.
Yeah, we need to turn out the vote in a big way. Also, just to pick up on what we started talking about last week, so far we have I just had it pulled up. We have 679 ratings on iTunes right now. Once we hit 750, so we're getting close. We're going to start reading a review per week.
Sweet.
When we hit 1,000, what else are we going to do? We're going to...
Trip to Hawaii.
Trip to Hawaii, yes. Paid by iTunes, question mark.
Mm-hmm.
At 1,000, we're going to watch We Believe in Dinosaurs, record a bonus
Yes.
episode about that. And at 1,500, I'm going to create and moderate a Facebook group for the podcast.
Very cool.
Also wanted to say that we have some Patreon goals as well, both and actually all 3 levels. So at the membership level, we're adding at the $5 a month mark, we're adding a sticker of our logo. So if you donate $5 a month, we will send you a Friendly Atheist logo sticker that you can put on your car or snowboard or laptop. Those are the 3 things where I put stickers.
Nice.
Everything else is going to be the same. And then once we hit, so we're added a couple other goals. So at 1,500, we're still planning on doing a live show in Chicago. Added another one at 1,250. We're going to do some kind of like call-in show or digital hangout type deal. It'll be a little bit different than what we normally do. And, we might be on video or something. Details are coming. And then once we get 300 Patreon, so 300 donors, we're going to watch a Kirk Cameron movie, record an episode for the bonus feed. At 350 donors, we are going to watch a fictional movie about Jesus, maybe the Mel Gibson one, maybe the 2000 version of Jesus Christ Superstar. Guess which I'm more excited about.
Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yeah. So, those are a couple new things that are coming. You can check out patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast if you want to see details. I'm super stoked.
Come on. Free.
Leave a review on iTunes. It costs you $0.00. And it really helps us, grow our listenership. And, that's the housework I have.
Very nice. Okay, I'm going to talk about a story from Virginia, and there's a specific reason I want to bring this up. So Virginia just became the first southern state to ban conversion therapy for minors.
That's good.
Which is huge. That's a big deal. Like, we've seen it in a handful of other states. This is the first one in the South.
Can I ask a dumb question?
Yeah.
Where does the South start? Like Maryland? Because somebody said that they lived in Baltimore and that was kind of a southern city. And I was like, maybe I don't understand where the South ends.
I'm sure there's an unofficial Mason-Dixon line
where's the
sort of
Mason-Dixon
thing.
line?
I knew this at one point a few months ago, and then I'm like, I don't need to know it anymore. All right.
You just flushed your head out?
Yep. But the reason I bring this up.
Yeah.
Okay, so good for Virginia. They actually also have other LGBTQ rights bills in the pipeline, one that would ban discrimination in employment, housing, public accommodations. That's huge.
Yeah.
That was blocked by Republicans in past years, but now Democrats basically run Virginia. So the reason I bring this up in relation to the discussion we were just having is the guy who's signing this stuff into law is Ralph Northam, the governor of Virginia, who had that blackface controversy last year. And the conversation that we had, that plenty of other people had, is that something worth getting rid of him over? Because that's a pretty I mean, pardon the lack of better language, it's a black and white issue. He, like, in other instances, Democrats would have been like, get rid of this guy. But then the lieutenant governor had his own issues with stuff. And then, like, the only way to purge the people with these problematic pasts would have been putting a Republican in the governor's seat, which would have been bad for all other issues that matter to a lot of people. And so I think a lot of voters in Virginia, especially African-American voters in Virginia, are like, look, what he did in the past was bad, really bad. But also we're pragmatic about it. We know what the alternative is, which is putting a Republican in charge who would be against everything we stand for pretty much. So you know what? Keep him in, keep the pressure on, and make him do the right stuff. And as far as I can tell, and we don't live in Virginia, obviously, he's been fairly good about a lot of issues.
And it helps that he has the entire house. Like,
yes,
and
he has.
Place is blue.
Well, that's the point. Like, yes, he has everything a Democrat would want in power, and he's using it. And they're making those changes. And this goes back to the thing about, like, yes, I wanted to vote for Elizabeth Warren. I won't even get to vote for her really in the primary now because it'll be a wasted vote at this point because she's not in the race. But even if Biden wins, which is absolutely not my preferred outcome for the Democrats, this is why it matters. Yes, he has. There's no shortage of things he has done in his past and plenty in the present that is like, oh, God, really? This is the guy I got to vote for? But you put a person in there who at least could get support, enough support to have a Democratic majority in there in the House and the Senate, and put him in the White House, like, you can get some shit done that is important to a lot of people. And this is why it's like, yeah, I know Biden isn't the favorite for a lot of progressives. Not mine either. But you put him in there and you put the pressure on him and you make sure progressives never stop telling him what they want to get done. And hopefully he chooses a running mate that is progressive. Hopefully he puts in people in charge who are progressive and can get shit done. That's the upside. That's why you don't stay out of it, is my point. Like, I know you don't have to love the guy, but Virginia is a perfect example of, like, here's a guy who in other states, Democrats would have kicked out of office. But they dealt with it because they had to, because they had no alternative. And it was better in the long run for them, right now at least. I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong, but that makes sense to me in Virginia. I think this is the argument I'm using for myself to make that case that, like, all right, Biden is not my favorite. There's a lot of problems, but it's not the worst thing.
Biden is not worst case scenario here. He, like you said, he's
like Bloomberg might be worse.
Bloomberg would have definitely
Tulsi
been
Gabbard,
worse.
Who's the last woman still standing somehow.
I want to talk about her. Yes, you're right. And, you know, if I have talked to a lot of people like boomer age who are genuinely concerned about Bernie's electability against Trump, like genuinely, really and truly. And that's the only reason, like, I am going to probably vote for Bernie because he aligns with my principles.
Same.
But I don't see boomers being super excited about a democratic socialist, nor...
I think it's easy to convince a lot of people who are especially older people that that's a bad thing. And again, most people are not going to sit down and try to figure out the differences between socialists, democratic, whatever label Trump and Republicans throw at him. Most people are too dumb to sit down or too busy or too ignorant of it. They're not going to do it. So it's easy to trash that. The Biden thing, I think the analysis that I heard, I don't know how much I agree with it, but it's like he's the safe bet. They all know him. You know what you're getting with Biden.
And I think people are
Bernie
really,
to a lot of people
in 2020, genuinely operating from a place of fear. And it's hard.
I want to get shit done, but I want to not have Trump more.
Like, I completely understand if somebody says, like, yes, I would like Bernie and Elizabeth Warren's policies to be enacted, but I am so scared that he can't defeat Trump that, like, what is the point of, you know, shooting the moon if you can't even get there in the first place? That wasn't a good metaphor. I'm very cranky today. But I get it. I'm This is just such a bad day. I'm so sad.
I'll give you some good election news from Tuesday. Guess who's not running anymore? I don't even know if this is necessarily good news. Roy Moore, the alleged child molester Roy Moore, was in the Republican primary for the U.S. Senate seat in Alabama. And the top two, unless someone gets 50% of the votes, they go to a runoff for the top two. Roy Moore came in fourth. He only got 6.8% of the votes.
And is that, are those the votes just in the primary? So those
in
are
the primary, just Republicans.
He's fourth for Republicans?
He's fourth among Republicans, so he's out. Now, the top two are Jeff Sessions, who used to hold the seat and has his own problems because, whatever, he's the initial attorney general. And Tommy Tuberville, who was the football coach for, was it Auburn? Sorry,
I don't
one of
fucking
those.
know.
He's a former football coach. They're going to head to a runoff. The question is whether Doug Jones can be either of them, which is a hard sell. Like, Republican anybody in Alabama is probably going to beat a really good Democrat. So that's going to be a hard race either way. But Roy Moore, the child molester, is no longer in the race. The only reason you might have wanted him to win or come in the top two is because as a Democrat, he's easier to beat because so many Republicans don't like the guy.
Right.
Because he's a alleged child molester.
Uh-huh.
But now he's out, which says a lot about Alabama, that this guy who was pretty much, remember, he was Chief Justice of their Supreme Court.
Right.
Was basically fired from that position because he wouldn't obey the law. And then they voted him back in as Chief Justice, and then he dropped out, and then he got kicked out again.
Yep.
And then they elected him to be the GOP nominee for an open Senate seat when Jeff Sessions was plucked out of there, and he lost that. Finally, they're realizing, you know what? Maybe this guy's Christianity isn't as important as his electability, which is a good thing for anybody to be thinking.
Yeah.
But now it does mean Alabama will likely keep that Senate seat or get it back because it was Republican.
You mean the Republicans?
The Republicans will probably, what I meant. Republicans will get to probably get that Senate seat back.
Yep.
All the more reason to support Democrats in Senate races across the country. But Roy Moore is out, which should be good news. Do you want a happy or sad story?
I mean, the last one wasn't that happy because you made me think about Jeff Sessions again.
I know.
And you know how I
sorry.
feel about thinking about Jeff Sessions.
I know. I apologize. So 1 Million Moms, the group that consists of at least one mom, but probably no more than 3 moms.
They always brighten my day.
Yeah. What are they outraged about this week?
Oh, can I guess?
Yes.
Wait, give me a category.
Women.
Okay, that was a terrible category.
2 women.
2 women smooching?
Say what now?
2 women smooching?
No.
Oh.
2 women existing. That is their problem. I had to watch this. So Clifford the Big Red Dog, remember those kids' books? There's a cartoon reboot of the cartoon. I don't know. But
you
the
have children,
show,
you should know things like that.
we don't watch Clifford. It's just not on their list.
Is he too red and you're just
I don't know. It's just not on their list of shows. I can give you a list of children's shows I now know every episode to. This is not one of them. But the Million Mom / One Mom is mad because in one episode, the main character, who is a little girl, who has Clifford the Big Red Dog, the main character is a little girl. Her female friend comes over for a dinner picnic sort of thing and brings her 2 mommies. And I had to watch the episode because I'm like, how long are they in this? What do they say? They literally show up for the picnic and it's 3 seconds later and then the show ends. That was it.
Pretty outrageous.
Yeah, and here's what they said in their protest, their rant.
Protest feels
the
generous.
same-sex couple was first introduced in a mid-February episode, blah, blah, blah. There was no disclaimer at the beginning of the episode where their relationship is explained. ... PBS Kids should not introduce the LGBTQ lifestyle to young children. And then they called it pushing an agenda.
Oh, yeah.
I want to know what disclaimer they wanted.
Warning, 2 women will be in proximity to each other.
That's it. That's all it was. And I don't know how...
if these 1 million moms are mad about something, they should be mad that this little girl has a gigantic dog under her care. She is not big enough or old enough to understand the responsibility of a dire wolf.
If you're complaining about God's intended design the inhuman or the genetically mutated dog is probably a bigger source of concern than two women who, by the way, in the screenshot that wasn't hard for me to grab, not even holding hands. They're literally just standing on either side of their daughter.
Do they say mommies?
No.
So it could be like...
She just shows up to the picnic with her mommies.
Well, it's just... She shows up to the picnic with two women?
Yeah.
So it could be like her mom and her aunt?
I mean, I think it could be. I don't think they said anything otherwise. But it was implied. I'll give them that. But this is what they were mad about. The existence. Again, whenever conservative Christians are like, love the sin or hate the sin, they're not, what's sin? There's no sin going on. Like, there's no homosexual acts.
Right.
Which is the thing usually even more conservative ones are leaning toward. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, you can be gay, just don't act on it. No. Here we just have the existence of two women who are implied to be in a relationship, and that's what they're mad about. That's what they think is an agenda. And again, I know we make fun because it's true. 1 million moms is like one mom, but the group is like sponsored by the American Family Association, which has millions of supporters and donors and money.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people who think this, and they're all assholes to a person.
Yeah. So the one mom here, it's not just one outraged person. It's one outraged person backed by millions of people who think the same way. This isn't just one person operating out of a basement. That's William Donahue of the Catholic League. So,
yeah, I mean, I think it's really easy to get complacent about how far gay rights have come in the last decade, 2 decades. But complacency is really dangerous because we have to make sure that we're always vigilant about like people like this who really exist, who genuinely hate gay people. And it's honestly, it reminds me of what happened when they took down, what was the Voting Rights Act? Voting Rights Act. Because they're like, well, racism's over, so this isn't going to be a John Roberts.
Basically like, we should stop racism by not doing racist stuff,
and
like
guess
looking
what?
over
like a bunch
centers.
of like a metric fuck ton of polling places in Texas closed down. Just like what? But
and they just happen to be in places where a lot of black people vote.
So I think constant vigilance, as Mad-Eye Mooney would say. God, is important.
This is a similar story about a Christian mom, but it's a different one. So someone sent me these screenshots, and they're like, I want you to look at this. Okay. And I love those. And
it was a dick.
Thankfully. I love these emails because they are like, here's a tip for a story. I'm like, good. I like, yes. So sends these screenshots, and it's Lori Alexander, the woman who writes as the transformed wife, who's basically a fundamentalist Christian mommy blogger who says, who thinks and says feminism is like the worst.
Sure.
So I've dealt with her, I've seen her writing. I know what to expect. We all know what to expect from those types of people.
Correct.
But the screenshots I had not seen before, and I don't know where the source was, which was a problem. But also they showed her saying things on Facebook comments. She's commenting under some post. But here's what she allegedly said. We had to spank each of our children for around 4 hours one time. It's all it took. And then they knew that they weren't the boss and they were to obey us.
4 hours?
Here's another screenshot. There's 3. Here's the second one. Basically, she's giving advice to another woman, it seems, on how to hit your kids. Trigger warning. There you go. Have a special place that you can put him as far away from your husband's bedroom as possible and put a little chair there, or it could even be a corner in a room. As soon as he starts crying, tell him to go to that place and sit there until he can control himself. If he gets up, smack him hard. It has to hurt a lot or it will do no good. And tell him to go back to a special place. Yeah.
For crying?
And then the third one, we used a foot-long strap. As soon as he began having a temper tantrum, spank him hard on the bottom. If he continues to have a tantrum, keep spanking him on the bottom until he completely stops, with breaks in between, and telling him to stop. It may take a long time the first time, but may be well worth your effort. Okay. Yeah, disturbing stuff. So I'm looking at this, man. And one, I'm like, I don't know where these came from, so I'm not going to post that willy-nilly.
Right.
But also, the screenshots suggested they were 39 weeks ago, 43 weeks ago, and it's like, well, it's not even new. I'm very curious why these would be popping up today.
Sure.
So I wasn't going to do anything with that. Because again, this is the whole fundamentalist Christian mentality that you got to, quote, train up a child, that hitting them or whatever euphemism they want to use for hitting them, spanking them. No, don't leave a mark. You just hit them.
Yeah.
But then she made a video yesterday and she posted that, basically responding. And here's what I think happened. She is part of a private Facebook group with other fundamentalist Christian mommies. And they discuss this sort of stuff. And somehow there's a mole in the group who was leaking some of the stuff that they had been talking about in their private Facebook group. So she went on Facebook to basically say, yeah, I said that stuff and it's not abuse. Which just confirms that she did say these things.
Because I say it's not abuse.
Yeah. Among the things she said, I'm just quoting a portion of this 7-minute video. She said, she says she misspoke about hitting her kid for 4 straight hours. It may have been a 4-hour cycle where, she hits, then reassesses, then hits again, which doesn't really help anything. But here's what she said. If you asked any of our children if they were abused, they would say not in any way, because we loved our children. We're not abusive.
Loved past tense. Those children are fucking dead, Evan.
We are not mean. We are not mean or unkind parents in any way. We believe in God. We believe that his ways work, and spanking has been around for generations and generations. It's legal in every single state, and for a reason, it works. ... We are not abusive parents. We love our children deeply. We wanted the best for them. That's a portion of the video, but that is pretty much the whole video, where it's just this abusive woman saying, we're not abusive. We just did what has been passed down to us, what our circle...
Our emotional scarring has told us is necessary to raise a human child.
And we have said this before on the show, how do you know your kids turned out okay? And how do you know you turned out okay? You turned into an adult who thinks hitting your kids is okay. So you're not okay.
I don't even hit my dog. I don't hit fucking horses. And horses are fucking gigantic.
Yeah, I have kids who, believe me, give me plenty of stress and reason to be angry or upset.
Yep.
Hitting them would never even cross our minds.
Remember when your daughter accidentally Facebook Lived for a half hour and just ran around with your phone?
Sounds about right.
It was extremely funny for me.
I'm glad some of you enjoyed that.
I don't think I even texted you about it. I was I just wanted to say.
No one warned me about what had happened until minutes it had been up there.
You had never invited me upstairs in your house, so I
post very little on Facebook, and then I'm getting many likes, and I'm like, oh no, something happened.
That was so funny.
Just to make the point that I can't even imagine hitting a kid. Jesus.
No, that's bad.
And by the way, this is how...
guys, don't hit people.
Yeah, this is how abusers justify abuse. It's no, I was doing it out of love.
Yeah.
I was doing it because they needed to be taught a lesson.
If you read any book or hear any story about abusers, that is the story every time. It's for their own good. I'm doing it to help them. You made me do it.
You made me do it. Yeah,
oh my God. It's textfunk. And I don't have human children. But I don't know. You seem fine. I wouldn't hit your kids either.
You haven't met them. Are they fine?
I don't know. Your daughter threw up at me the first time she met me.
That's true. She was throwing up at a lot of people. That was her childhood. She also...
Do your kids ask about me?
No, they don't know who you are.
Do they want to meet Daddy?
No, they would be frightened.
She's very big and
They get scared when we see little dogs anywhere.
Aw.
Yes.
The kids on my street are also afraid of Daddy. It's extremely... But then they crowd around her. It's
nice.
Very funny.
The other thing that bothered me is that, of course, she uses Christianity to defend her cruelty. And again, if your religion is so convenient that it provides cover for your abuse, your religion is part of the problem.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, here's a totally different story just to cleanse our palates for a second. Suppose I told you there's an asteroid, I don't know, that's going to hit the Earth in 20 minutes. We're all going to die. Would you suddenly find God? What would happen within 20 minutes?
I would welcome the sweet release of infinite fire.
Yes.
Is that
Welcome to Democrats in 2020. Yes.
The right answer?
That is not the right answer.
He said that and I was oh, finally. I don't have to do
Instead of an asteroid, sorry, it was a nuclear missile was going to hit you in 20 minutes and kill you and kill everybody.
Okay.
And you have 20 minutes and there's a Christian movie that is coming out this August.
Oh, no. Ooh, I should put that on our list of things to do.
The movie is called 20 Minutes.
What's it about, Evan?
Yeah, the missile's gonna hit all the area where the main characters are in, and it follows the journeys. Like, from what I can gather from the trailer, it's like 18 minutes left, and we go in on character number 3, and like, what's that person doing?
Ooh.
Like, I guess I will stop robbing this bank. I don't know. But of course, the whole point of the movie is there are at least a character or two who are non-believers, and they suddenly find Jesus somehow in the course of this 20 minutes. And if any of this sounds familiar, which it did to me, it's because the director, Tim Che, he got the idea from an actual thing that happened in 2018 in Hawaii, when everyone got these when they got text messages, like the Amber Alert sort of like flashing siren sort of text message. Emergency notification that said there's a missile, like this is not a false alarm, there's a missile headed your way. And it turned out that was a false alarm, but they didn't know that for 20 minutes or something like that. So that's where he got the idea. He's basically just co-opting that actual thing that happened and saying, oh, if I were an atheist, this is his actual quote from the press release. We really thought this could be it, said one pastor in Hawaii. I got on my knees and prayed with my entire family. Then here's the director. It caused a movie idea to pop into my head. I used to be a former atheist. And I knew this missile warning would cause many atheists to think about God. Except, here's the thing. When that 2018 thing happened, I remember I went on Facebook or Twitter and I'm like, hey, people who are in Hawaii, have any of you, I know this is anecdotal.
Yeah.
Have any of you changed your minds or did any thought go through your head? And of course, none of them said, I thought about anything about God.
Right.
Which, who cares? That's my anecdotal evidence. But again, it's the same Christian trope of like, well, on your deathbed, you will find God.
Just like Darwin definitely did.
Right. And that
wasn't propagated by a Christian fundamentalist in any way.
Yes, which is exactly what happened there. But in Hawaii, it didn't happen. Christopher Hitchens famously did not. I think Dawkins has said, like, if I'm on my deathbed, put up a tape recorder so you know I'm not recanting or something. But the point is, atheists are not changing their minds because death is imminent. It's not true in the military. Like, there are atheist soldiers who put their lives at risk. They're not suddenly finding God in the middle of a war. As the same thing in Hawaii.
I feel like a war would make me less religious, because wars, to paraphrase, are hell. Why would you like be at a war and be like, hey, all these humans are murdering each other over a piece of land that none of them care for personally? Yeah, Jesus, I really feel Jesus in this.
And what does it say about your religion if the only way to convince people to find your God is like, hey, you're going to die in a minute. What do you got? Oh,
it's
Jesus.
Just threats. Right. It's just straight up and down threats.
Like, actual logic or trying to argue them into religion won't do it. So, hey, you're going to die. Now come to my religion. That's all they got. But that's the premise of this movie. It's not a Pure Flix movie. It's not made by the God's Not Dead people. So I can't say it's going to have a big release or anything. But again, like so many Christian movies, it just takes this trope that like, atheists are all people who would totally act in the same way. They would all come to Jesus if this happened. It's the same, like every college professor is always an atheist who's angry.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Well, all atheists are angry.
All atheists are angry.
We should go see that, but you should drive because I'm definitely going to take an edible beforehand.
Yeah, so that's coming out this August, I believe. The movie's 20 minutes, and it already sounds horrible. I learned this week. Remember Roger Stone? He's the Trump associate guy.
The guy with a tattoo of Richard Nixon on his back?
Yep, Richard Nixon tattoo. The guy who wears like a top hat and circular glasses.
He literally is like, if Mr. What's his name from Monopoly? Mr. Monopoly? I think he's got a name.
Moneybags?
Penny Farthing? That's a big bike.
Not even close. Yes. But anyway, he was convicted of obstruction, witness tampering, lying to Congress. He's going to spend 40 months in prison. And every indication is that Trump will totally pardon this guy.
Is this about that weird rant he went on? Because it keeps coming up on my feed, and I'm so thankful for the feature that like just it doesn't play noises unless you click on it.
Site. So Axios did an interview with Roger Stone before he heads to prison. It's the first interview he has given since being sentenced to prison. And he basically said, I'm not afraid.
Rich Uncle Pennybags.
Rich Uncle Pennybags? That's on the nose.
Milburn Pennybags.
He has a first name.
Milburn.
Nice. He said to Axios, Roger Stone said, the only fear I have is not being right with God. I feel pretty good because I've taken Jesus Christ as my personal savior. And it's given me enormous strength and solace because he knows what's in my heart.
Yeah, that you're a criminal. You have a criminal's heart because you're a criminal.
Right. Nothing screams...
broke many, many laws.
Nothing screams I'm guilty more than a convicted felon telling you how much he loves Jesus.
You know who else said that? Fucking Ted Bundy.
Yeah, right.
John Wayne Gacy. Maybe BTK. Unclear. But they're all like,
which,
God
by
knows
the
what's
way,
in my heart.
correction
They're
to
like,
previous
you fucked
episode,
a corpse. We all know what's in your heart.
BTK is not the K-pop group. I learned this the hard way.
It's something... What was it? Because
no, we're not making the same mistake again.
Okay.
Anyway, the weird thing about this is, here's what I don't get. Who is Roger Stone trying to convince with this Jesus talk? Because the only person who can save him at this point is Donald Trump. And you know how little he cares about Jesus.
Oh, yeah. Group.
But it's just amusing that even this guy who is about as conniving...
BTS.
Yes, I'm just going to nod.
According to...
The guy who has no redeeming qualities here is just like, yep, Jesus, you should all love me now.
This guy is like if the penguin was a real corporeal human person.
Yes.
He's the fucking worst.
Yep, but he found Jesus.
You know what makes me, like... I know he's going to get pardoned, and I know they lessened his sentence, and blah, 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 blah. It makes me...
I was supposed to spend like 8 or 9 years in prison.
Yeah,
it's
now
down
it's
to
like
like 3.5
minutes.
Yeah.
It makes me so... Like, our prison system, our justice system is so fucking corrupt that people who had, like, a dime bag of weed are behind bars for 15 years. And this guy who, like... is a literal movie villain who actually harmed our country in irreparable ways. It's like, slap on the wrist and the president's going to pardon you because you have a tattoo of Richard Nixon on your back. I still don't get that tattoo. Did he think Richard Nixon was like the good guy?
Yeah, I think that's now the new default position of all Republicans.
Just, how did we get here, Hammett?
Because dumb people didn't vote for the right people.
But this...
That's why. Yeah, I'm blaming them.
Yeah.
Because I have no one else to blame right now.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, in Oklahoma, there is a bill...
Goes flowing down the drain.
No. Republican lawmakers are trying to pass a bill that would put In God We Trust in all state-run buildings, including public schools. But this is what's interesting about this particular bill. The state's own budget office did an analysis of this bill and how much it would cost, because they include that every time you file a bill. And the Office of Management and Enterprise Services, like run by the state of Oklahoma, says it will boil down to $85,500, about $250 per building.
Okay.
And that's just for starters. That's no maintenance. That's just to get the signs up.
Sure.
And unlike other bills where they're like, it's privately funded, we're going to put the decals on the police cars, but it's coming from a private Christian group or something, this one is $85,000 of taxpayer money spent to tell Jews they don't matter, or atheists they don't matter, or whatever you want to say. There's a couple of atheist groups that were protesting the bill, and one of them, the Assistant Oklahoma State Director for American Atheists, Alex Newman, he said, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars potentially wasted of taxpayer money that could go to things like schools, that could go to state infrastructure, things that are more important than this.
Was Oklahoma where that huge teachers strike was?
Yeah, it was one of many, yeah.
So I bet they could find somewhere else for that
They could. Again, in the scheme of like a state's budget, $85,000 isn't a lot, but it's $85,000 spent to promote Christianity.
Yeah.
That's not being used for anything actually useful.
Yeah, maybe I'm just jaded. $85,000 isn't like that much in the grant. It is the principle, but that wasn't a scary enough price for me.
Sorry, I'll make it $85 million next time. And I'll leave you the last story I got. It's a happy one. Anyway. And I'm especially happy because I think this is the first of many of these stories that I'll get to share. Carol Iannuzzi is now going to be a candidate for the U.S. House from Texas, one of many, because Texas has a lot of House members. She's in District 26. She's going to be taking on Republican Representative Michael Burgess. She won her Democratic primary on Tuesday. That's why this is important. She beat 2 other candidates. And she's not a former politician either, I don't believe. The reason I bring her up is because she is a humanist. Openly about that. Not only supportive of church-state separation, because a lot of Democrats are, even if they are religious, but she's a member of a Unitarian Universalist congregation, but she has used the H word to describe herself, which is not the case for some of the other any of the other Democrats who won for Congress or any other that level position or higher. So she's the first one. I guarantee you there are going to be a ton more as we get through some of these other state primaries. She's the first one I can identify who is a newcomer, who's like challenging an incumbent, who is openly non-religious.
That's exciting.
And her own website is like, I believe in the separation of church and state, and that government must maintain an attitude of neutrality toward religion. I mean, she's very good on those issues. So now, I should say, this is a heavily red district in Texas, as are many of them. This is one that's not even on any list of competitive races, so it's an uphill climb for her. But I've said this before, like there used to be a time when having any openly non-religious candidate was amazing, shocking.
Yeah.
And now it's like, we're going to see a bunch of these. And it's hard to keep track when there's so many down ballot races still in the works and we don't have nominees yet. We have a lot of people who are just like, I filled out the paperwork. So I haven't kept track yet. But as these primaries go on, we're down to 1 candidate for Democrats on these things, or Republican. I haven't seen one yet this time around, but you're going to see more of these openly non-religious candidates running for state office.
And you're right. It is becoming more commonplace, whereas I think it's always important, especially when I'm feeling really sorry for myself, to take stock of how far we've come and, you know. And
what I'd be curious about, I should have a couple caveats here, because I give a talk about this and I give these caveats too, which is that just because she's a humanist doesn't mean she deserves anybody's vote. But in this case, it looks like her views are pretty much aligned with most liberals in general. But also, I'm very curious to see if her open humanism and her open support of church-state separation, even in a red district in Texas, is somehow used against her more than other things you would expect Republicans to attack Democrats for in general. So I'd be curious to see how that progresses as her campaign continues. She did get endorsements from the Free Thought Equality Fund PAC and the Texas Democratic Secular Caucus, because that is an actual thing registered with the Democratic Party in Texas. Cool. There'll be more of that. I'll share them with you as I learn about them, but a little bright spot there.
Cool.
So, yeah. Carol Iannuzzi is her name.
Iannuzzi.
That's all I got for you.
Cool. Thank you for doing all the research. I was having a pity party this morning. Are you up to anything fun this weekend, bud?
No, I hope the weather's good. I'll get out of my house for once.
It's supposed to be nice. It's supposed to be like 60 on Saturday or Sunday or something like that.
So I'll leave my house, my crypt,
That'll
for a
be
little
nice. Bit. I'm going up to Wisconsin with a couple of friends.
Look at you.
My parents are out of town, so I'm staying at their place because I'm still 16 years old.
Have a party.
Yeah, we are.
Where do we find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Blueberry, BLUEBURIE. Hemant is
at Hemant Meta.
Don't forget to just right now, just go ahead and give us a 5-star review. Say a couple nice things.
We feel very bad about Elizabeth Warren. We need to pick me up.
We're extremely sad. And you know what? All these nice, I got a few nice reviews. They've been
You know what
good.
I'm doing this weekend?
What are you
I'm going to
doing
go early voting with my kids.
Oh, nice. Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
What, we have 2 weeks?
Yeah, we got a couple weeks. It won't matter by then, I'm guessing. So might as well go get in a vote now while it kind of sort of won't matter.
Yeah.
Still.
I'm so devastated I'm not going to get to vote for her. Okay, here's my question. Real talk. Mikey has a Elizabeth Warren pin, and I have like car magnets, Warren car magnets coming in the mail like today.
Nice. You should still do them.
On my car?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. I have 2 of them. I guess I have 2 cars. Oh,
I've seen people with worse bumper stickers.
Yeah.
For candidacies that are old.
Oh my God. Side note, anecdote. I was driving on...
Jeb. Put that.
Yep.
There, yep.
I was driving on 88 and I saw a Prius with a Trump 2020 sticker. I swear to fucking God, I've never seen anything like it. It was like a unicorn.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
That's a little weird.
And it had one of those like thin blue line America things. Yeah, no, it was a whole fucking mess. But it was like a little like two-door Prius. It just made me giggle and cry, giggle and cry. That's just my 2020 motto. You can email us at friendlyatheistpodcast@gmail.com if you have questions, concerns, corrections, long rambling emails that Hemant will forward to me and I won't read.
Yes.
I said reviews on iTunes. Oh, if you want a cross stitch, Bitches Get Stitched Done is my Etsy shop. I make cross stitches. Donate at Patreon. I don't know. Can we go? Are we done?
Go.
Okay.
Bye. We'll see you next week.